Hello pilots of the internet and welcome to Foldable Flight. In this video I'm going to teach you how to fold Griffin, designed by SamIam, who is one of the grand prize winners from this year's contest. Now, as part of his grand prize, we're going to be giving him this custom trophy featuring his playing Griffin and his name on it. So congratulations once again on being a grand prize winner. Now, to all of our grand prize winners, I will be mailing out your custom trophies this week. So make sure you're checking your email. In case I don't have your address, I'll be reaching out to you. And with that, let's check out this plane and start folding. Now, as you can see, Griffin is an origami masterpiece. There's no cutting involved in this. This is just a single sheet of paper folded into this amazing shape with air intakes, a machine gun, these crazy tail fins, and this is a flying model. It won't fly very far for you, but you can definitely throw this across a room to your friend. I just absolutely love this design, and that's why I'm so excited to include it in my upcoming board game about paper airplanes racing. If you're interested in learning more about that game, head over to foldableflight.com, scroll down, and add your email to our email list. We'll be sending out updates about the game soon. And if you support us on patreon.com/foldableflight, you can download and print off this template to fold a plane that looks like this rather than using a regular sheet of paper. And I just think it looks absolutely awesome. And with that, let's get folding. All you need in order to fold Griffin is a square sheet of paper. Now I'm using beautiful origami paper here, but you can use regular paper as well. The one thing I will say is that you really don't want to use a sheet smaller than this. This is almost 10 by 10 inches. Anything smaller than that's going to be really hard to fold. Already at this size, there are going to be some very small sections that are difficult to fold. And on that note, you're probably going to want a pair of tweezers, or at the very least, a pen or pencil that you can reach into small pockets that are smaller than your fingers with. That's the real key to these, but having tweezers is very helpful for doing really small folding. I may or may not end up using these, but just know that's a tool that could really help you out as well. And just a reminder, this is an expert difficulty plane, so keep that in mind as you're deciding whether you should attempt this model or not. And with all of that said, I'm going to flip the paper over and I'm going to rotate it into this position. Now I'm going to fold it so this side is the more visible side as opposed to this model where the gold side is. So if you have two-sided paper, keep that in mind. We're going to make this the outside of the plane. And with that said, we're folding this corner here to this corner down here. Okay, we'll open that up, flip it over, and now we're folding this corner to this corner. I'm going to assume that you're a skilled folder if you're watching this tutorial, so I may move more quickly through things than I would in an easier tutorial. And so now we're going to squash fold each of these sides. So we're standing this up, kind of fanning it open and pushing that down. And we'll flip this over and squash fold this flap. And now we're going to stand and squash fold each of these flaps as well. Actually, I'm sorry, first we're folding this to that point up there. Just like this, be careful not to tear your corners on the outside edges here. And we just bring that back down, and now we can squash fold each flap. Just fold that to the right. Fold this to the left. Flip it over. Squash fold each of these. This paper I have looks really nice, but the creases don't reverse very easily, which will make some of the steps using this paper more difficult than it would be with regular paper, but I just think it's so beautiful. This is the coolest paper I've been able to find, I think. Okay, so now we're looking for the side here that has that crease we made. That's going to stay folded like this. Just open everything else up, or you can open it all up, but basically you want that side to be the one pointed towards you, and basically you're closing just that flap there, and then you just flatten everything else. Just like that. Okay, I'll rotate it into this position and crease from here to here. Again, be careful not to tear your corners as you pull this down. I'll rotate it into this position, fold this edge to there. Same thing on the other side. And now we've got this crease right here, which is a mountain fold, and we're kind of pinching that and swiveling it to this edge right here. So just pinch, swivel, and then you can kind of push that in like that and land that crease on that edge there. So it should look like this. And now we're going to fold right along this center crease here, just kind of opening that up and swivel it like this. And then fold the section that crosses the center back across. Do the same thing on this side, so we're opening it up like that, taking all this slack out and forcing it in this direction. And then folding it like this. Okay, so now we're actually going to open that up. You've got a horizontal crease right here, just kind of fold behind on that crease. And now we're going to pull in, using these creases in the directions they're already in. Just pull in on each of those. And then you can see the back may not lie as it's supposed to. We will handle that in just a second. We're going to push this in and rabbit ear fold. And fold it in this direction as well. Stand it up and squash fold this flat. And now that I have it here, I'll go ahead and flip it over, and I want to line this point up with the center crease. I shouldn't have to make any new creases to do this, but I'll reverse a few and just flatten it to look like this. Okay, and we can flip it back over and keep working on this side. So now we're going to do a petal fold here on this flap, so we need to prepare for that by folding these edges here to the center on both sides. And we will now kind of open this. And you're going to be making a crease that goes from this intersection of this line there and this intersection over here. But the way we do that is we actually open it and kind of push in on the existing creases until they catch on those corners. And then you make new creases that go right to the center point and kind of turn this tab into a triangle. So there we go. Now we'll fold this little triangular flap down and back up. And we want to fold this edge now to the center. And we'll do this on both sides. We're just going to be using these creases later. Now's an easy time to make them. Do that on this side. Okay, so we can unfold that. And now we're going to kind of open the paper up. Open it up until you have it in this position here. We'll flip the paper over. And now we're going to kind of look at it like this. We're going to be closing it up like this. Sorry, let me get the paper folding, and then it'll be easier to demonstrate exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so the step is to get it here. It's a little difficult to communicate and do at the same time, but you can see this is our center line. Those edges will swing together. Those corners of paper will swing together like this. And you can see these are mountain creases here. Mountain, mountain, valley, mountain, mountain. Those are the most important things as you do this. And you may have to fiddle with the paper to get it to collapse into that, especially like right here. You may have to push that in. It may kind of be doing this. If that's the case, you kind of just push that in until you can massage it into that position. And once you can get it like that, you can kind of have it half collapsed and set it down like this. And now in order to get this to be able to fully collapse, we need to kind of fan this open. Starting from this point right here, we're fanning open. And it should start to look like that, like almost like you're going to squash it into a square. But in order to do that, we now have little creases, and this is going to be hard for you to see because of my glossy paper here. There's a crease going from this point right here to out there. I'm going to line that crease up with this crease here. So hopefully you can see that on your own plane. Let me go ahead and do it on mine, and then it may be a little simpler to show. So basically, I'm going to flatten those layers like that, and the way I determined exactly how to flatten them is I'm lining a crease up on this layer with a crease on that layer. And then that lets you squash this into that square on top. Now that's not all, because this is just setting us up to do another little collapse that is going to involve reversing some creases here. We're going to reverse this little crease right here, and this crease, and this crease, I think, as well as these two creases as we do that. I think everything there is going to have to get reversed, but the way I do it is I start with a finger there and pulling forward to get it to start creasing right along that. And then I can start to kind of squeeze the sides in like this, and as I'm doing that, that's helping to reverse this crease that's going to go right to the point of the plane. Like that. And now I need to worry about these creases here and the accuracy of my first creases. I'm not making any new creases in this whole step. I'm really just positioning things properly. So this whole section that you're kind of collapsing here is going to end up mirroring this section here. And this may be easier for you than it is for me, because like I said, this paper can be really difficult to reverse creases. So a collapse like this on this paper is really more difficult than it should be. Okay, that's accurate enough for the sake of teaching. And you can see now we're going these creases right to these corners and flattening this like that. I know that was difficult. Feel free to re-watch that whole sequence if you need to. We're now going to look at these kind of inner layers here, just pulling that layer back and folding along the creases, those preparatory creases that we already made earlier. So no new creases there, just folding on them. Same thing here, just folding that to center, closing that back up, And just so you can see, it should look like this on the other side. Okay, so now we're going to fold this edge here to that edge right there. Same thing on this side. And then we'll open that up and actually fold right along that edge. Like that. And now we'll fold this to that edge. Same thing on this side. Okay, and now we need to inside reverse these flaps, just pushing like that. So you're going to reverse this crease that represents this edge and one other crease to get this inside there. So I took that flap and now you can see the flap is inside, and I'm just reversing creases in order to do that. Okay, and now we're ready to flip the plane over. I'll rotate it into this position here and fold this edge to the center. Okay, and now we're going to do basically a more complicated petal fold. So we're going to fold right along that line there, carrying that all the way to the nose of the plane. We have to reverse these creases we just made. Don't worry about the fact that it doesn't actually lie flat yet. We'll work on that. Okay, so in order to get this to lie flat, I like to use one finger and kind of sweep back on the back edge of this pocket. That helps it start to get into the right position. And then this pocket back here could kind of flatten in two ways. You want it to be this front section, this is the front of the plane, this front section that kind of bubbles open and becomes the pocket, and this back section is going to get flat. So it should look like that. And then you land this edge right along that short little edge under it. Like that. So let's see it again on this side. I pull this right here in this direction. And then see how this is opening on this side? I don't want that. I want to kind of gently relax the paper and pull it here so that this side opens up and I can flatten it like this. Okay, so now we have another difficult step. This is called a spread squash. We're going to start by folding right along this edge, just kind of opening this pocket up right along that edge of the paper and just kind of placing a crease. And then while we have this pocket open, you're going to kind of gently press on that. And you want to do this a little bit at a time because you can see your paper can kind of buckle in if you do that, and you really don't want your paper to buckle in. If it starts doing that, you can pull on this side that way and this side this way to help get it to all be kind of bubbling outward instead of buckling inward. If your paper starts buckling inward, that makes the squash much less neat and much more difficult to perform. And you're going to squash this symmetrically, so there's a crease right on this layer that I'm landing on the edge there. Okay, and I'll do the same thing on this side. So I'm opening up right along this edge of that layer there. And then I start gently pressing right there. Again, I've got mine buckling a little bit, so you can see I'm pulling on either side, and now it's much easier to perform. Okay, so it should look like this. And we have yet another difficult step. So we're going to fold this like this, that's just along the existing crease, and now we need to do some sink folds. And so we're going to kind of grab the paper here and back here, and allow this pocket to open up a little bit, and we're just pulling it open. And you can see here, we're going to be sinking this point right here. So I kind of rest a finger on that, and that's that point right there. And in order to sink that, I'm going to end up reversing several of these creases right around it, but I kind of push on that there, and then reverse this crease right here, and begin sinking it. I need the creases to continue to this point here. Okay, and let me go ahead and fiddle with it a little bit more. It's hard to show the camera and do this effectively at the same time. Okay, so that's successfully completed, but obviously I didn't totally show you how to do that. So it will look inside, it'll look like this when you're done. But basically we inverted that point and we had to reverse the creases associated with it. So a crease right here, a crease right there, and actually as we closed it back up, that's when we made the crease that you see right there. So that crease won't exist, and you'll kind of have to shape that and form it as you're collapsing your layers back into a closed position. So let's look again on this side, see if I can show it a little more effectively. So it's this corner here, I'm resting a finger right there. I open it up and I push. I need to reverse this, and again, this is harder on this paper than it would be on a lot. And I need to reverse that crease right there. You don't want to pull this too far open because you need this to stay oriented as it's going to. But we need also to reverse this crease right here, which you can do a little bit by pulling. And then you can see I'm kind of shaping the paper so that there's going to be a crease that forms from this point to that point there as I close this up. And I just make sure, aside from this crease, I'm not making any new creases, I'm just reversing creases. So I just make sure everything's still lying appropriately on the crease, you know, that it's folding rather than lying, folding along the existing creases I had. And there you go. So it should look like this now. Again, I know that was difficult. It's an expert difficulty plane. Okay, so now we're folding this point to that point right there. And I'll go ahead and perform this step and explain exactly what I did here after performing it. Okay, so not too hard. Basically, you want your crease to originate from this corner over here, right there, and you're landing this edge on itself. So when you fold it, it'll look like that. Open that up, do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and now we can kind of rabbit ear like this, so that's folding in on both sides at the same time. And we have this paper trapped under this tab. I'm going to loosely pull this forward and open up like that to release that paper, and then I'll hold that rabbit ear vertical again and pull all the slack of the released paper forward. Just like that. I'm just pushing the slack forward and reshaping that front section. I'll do the same thing over here. So I'm loosely opening this, pulling on this forward to make that open up, and then I take all that slack and push it forward. Okay, so now we stand the rabbit ear up and we're going to squash fold it, reaching into this. This is one of those times when tweezers or a pencil makes this easier. From now on, it's probably gonna be worth having those within reach. And it looks like this. And now we're going to look at this whole flap here, the fine details here. We already have creases going from this corner here to that point right there, and I'm going to fold right along that crease. I also already have a crease from this point that intersects this edge. I also want this to fold along that. But now I need this slack to get pulled out and flatten so that this short little edge I'm making is going to land on the center crease. So I flatten like that, and then I collapse that pocket to land that edge right on the center crease. So now we're folding again on this point, from this point here to there along the existing crease. I kind of push on this to aim it towards the nose on top. And then I'm landing all the edges I make here right on the center crease. Just like that. And that's how you make the cockpit for this plane. Okay, so now let's flip it back over and we're going to work on the wings a little bit here. So you can see you've got a crease going from this point here to right out here. And we want that crease to not only be on that layer, but also on the layer behind it. So I'm kind of just folding along this while holding this layer to that, adhering it to it so that the crease really is placed at the same point on that other layer as well. We'll go ahead and do that on this side too. So I've got these two layers and I'm folding, while holding them together, I'm folding on that existing crease right there, just pinching them together along that existing crease. And then once you have that, you can do a swivel fold, making sure you're grabbing both layers. Swivel this forward and you should be able to flatten it so that, again, this back side will just flatten on an existing crease. And this front edge, you're swiveling this to that edge right there. So you can push that down and see that's landing on an existing crease. Perfect. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm grabbing both of these layers here as I perform this swivel. Swiveling it up and just flattening that like so. Awesome. So now we're going to do some reversing of creases. I'm just folding this basically right along this edge to the nose, but I already have a crease there. And then I'm reversing this crease here. And then I'm reversing the next crease so that it kind of flattens like that. And we want to do the same thing on this other side. No new creases are being made here. We're just reversing creases. Okay, and now I'll just rotate it to this position for my convenience. We're going to fold this edge here to the center, and it's not going to lie flat as we do this. Really, we only need this crease to go to this point right here where it intersects this crease, so you don't have to worry too much about the fact that it's opening up, that you don't have to resolve this and flatten it out in any way. So just make the crease here. And these are reference creases that we will use later. Okay, and now we're going to fold in again on existing creases and position it like so. And now we're folding this edge here to this edge here. And this time we are going to end up having to resolve this. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But you're carrying that all the way through. And the crease continues to the center of the paper there. Let me line mine up a little better than I did. Okay, and I can unfold that for now and do the other side. Now an important note is obviously this is just one layer over here. Here we have multiple layers. You want both of these layers folding right along that same crease right there. So make sure they adhere together. And once you've done both sides, you can pull both of these flaps forward and kind of pull this forward, and you're going to end up making a crease that goes from there to there as you land this on the nose. And then that also allows you to flatten this and this, making 2 new creases as well. And it should look like this. And now we're going to open that up and do some more swivel folding. So I kind of grab this here and pull this open, and my crease will start in the corner right there, and I'm landing this edge of paper, which will be a crease once I start to flatten it. I'm landing that crease right along this existing crease we have. And I'll do the same thing on this side here, pulling this open, landing that crease on the crease behind it. Okay, and now we can fold this flap open like that, and then fold this edge here to this crease, and I would leave a little gap as you do that. Because we're going to end up rolling that back in just like that. And we'll open this tab up and fold this almost to that crease, that tiny little crease or tiny little fold, and then fold in just like this. Okay, and then you can flatten it back, or well, pull this back to the front, and then you have some new slack here, and you're going to pull that slack out and push it back to flatten these sections like this. So pull this slack back like that and flatten that just like so. Okay, I'll flip it back into this position and pull these little corners out from behind those flaps that we just made. And now, I guess I will flip it here. We're going to fold this edge here right over this edge, and we have an existing crease, but you'll notice we're going to have to resolve some stuff there as we do this. So first, I just fold that right over that edge, and then I'm going to make sure I have a new crease that goes right from this point here to that corner there. So it goes just like that. We can leave it flat like that for now and do the other side. So I'll kind of just open this up enough to fold that right over that edge and make a new crease that goes right to this corner here, or almost to that corner. The dimensionality of the paper kind of prevents you from placing it right on that corner. And we'll have it look like this, so you can see kind of what that looks like on either side. And now we have another somewhat complex little collapse here. We're folding right along this edge with these layers. And then we have an existing crease here that we want to push down on. Here, make sure this kind of swings open like that. And you're not creasing it like this. Once you kind of get it to start folding over, you want to make a crease from this point to that point there, allowing you to fan that open and kind of continue this angle, the angle of this edge here, straight onto this layer. Okay, so I'll pull this in. Now I'm forcing this gently, of course, into that position like this. And fan open this pocket here so that I can flatten it just like so. So if you look, you can see we've got some inner layers that end before these outer layers do. And it should look like this. Okay, so now we're going to kind of form the machine gun at the front of the plane. And we have these creases that we already made that we want to fold on. And basically we're taking all the slack between these outer layers. The gap between these outer layers and those inner layers is going to disappear as we kind of force that paper in toward the center of the plane. And then this edge will fold right along the existing crease like that, and then you'll flatten it. Make sure that these are going in as far as they can, but don't tear your paper. And then flatten it forward like so. I don't think I got this one in as far as it can go. I'm going to pull a little more slack out. Okay, so it should look like this. You can kind of see the actual creases there. And now I'm going to fold on those creases. I'm just pulling in simultaneously to do another rabbit ear fold and forcing that to one side and then to the other side. And now I'm going to squash fold this. So I'm going to reach in and push down like this, landing that on the center crease. And this is why having some tweezers like this can be so nice, is because there's so many small pockets to reach into, really small sections to do. I'm now going to fold this edge here to the center, which again, you may find using tweezers makes that easier for you. So we're just folding that really narrow into the center. This certainly can be folded just using your hands. I've done so many times as I was learning how to fold this, but having a tool really helps. Once you've done that, go ahead and open it up. We're going to do a kind of petal fold here where we swing those forward. We're going to end up placing a crease from here to there where those creases we just made intersect the edge of the layer. And we pull this forward, and as we do that, we're going to end up folding on the creases we have. Just like that. Except I need to pull farther forward still. And I know my fingers were mostly covering that. Again, I'm just going to have to, for this plane, count on you having a sound origami understanding. What we just performed was a petal fold, swinging this forward. Okay, so now we can work on the wings a little bit. You can see we've got a lot of the front of the plane figured out. And now we're going to develop the leading edge of the wings. So in order to do that, we're going to be folding. Let me just go ahead and make this fold, and then I'll explain exactly how I did it, because it has a few reference points that are kind of hard to communicate before doing it. I'll rotate it into this position for my convenience. Okay, so for this fold, you can see it's basically a right triangle, and there are a few things to consider. One, as you pull this open, there's a point where it will catch that you can't fold past, right here. Also, in order to do the next step, you can't pull this edge here, this inner edge, past this corner of this pocket. There's this pocket that goes right to there and wraps around the edge. This point right here is a limit. You can't fold this past it, or you won't be able to do the next step. And then the last reference you could use is there's a little crease right here, which you can land on the edge of your wing. Now, if you have really thick paper, your references may not line up the way mine did here. But with perfectly flat paper that has 0 dimension, they would all be able to line up just like this. Okay, so once we do one side, we're just doing the same thing on the other side. You can see my references actually aren't quite lining up perfectly on this side, so I'm just trying to make it match my other side as closely as I can. and it'll look like that. So now we can unfold, and we're going to use the creases we just made and do an inside reverse fold where we're pulling open this pocket and swinging this open and then folding that down just like that. And that's why you couldn't fold past that point. So again, I'm opening this pocket up, folding on that existing crease, and then folding this down. Okay, so now I will flip the paper over. I'll fold this just from that point to there. And same thing on this side here. And now I'll open both of these up, and we have another difficult step. We need to kind of release this. You can see there's that little corner that was wrapped behind that edge. Release that and open this all up enough that you can fold on this crease here, and you can see that crease kind of zigzags through those various other creases. You need to kind of fold down on that so it looks like this right now, and then begin closing it back up. And as you close it back up, you have to be pinching on this straight to this point, and this point here is going to actually get tucked behind another pocket. So we need to fold this accordions like that, and has a pocket on it that this corner ends up having to land in. Like that. And I know I did not show that as effectively as I can. So let me try on the other side to give you a better view of what happened, but you can see at least the end state here. So we're going to pull this little hook that was wrapped around that layer out, open this up a bit, and we're folding. So this, see how that's accordioning? That's because we've folded this in now. And as that accordions, this corner can kind of slide into it while holding this wrapped around like that. You're just kind of pushing that in. And it is difficult, but hopefully you're able to see what I just did and figure that out and get yours to look like this. Okay, so now we'll flip it over, and we have these really little short edges here, this little flap, and what we want to do is lock this together by folding that flap from this point to the point up there in behind. So we're wrapping that in behind just like this to lock all those layers together. This is another time I feel like the tweezers are really helpful. Okay, I'll do the same thing on this side, just wrapping this behind. Like so. Okay, now we can really work on the back of the wings a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to swing that forward like this and fold back down on that crease. So no new creases there, just doing an inside reverse. And position the wings like this. And now I'm going to fold this corner up until it hits a limit here. I can't fold past that point. It kind of catches. And I land this edge on the edge behind it. Same thing over here. And now I can unfold that. Go ahead and fold this edge to the crease we just made. Unfold that, and now we're going to inside reverse on the earlier crease, not the one we just made, the one that kind of makes a square. So again, no new crease there, we just inside reversed. Open that up you can see what I'm doing here. Just pushing that in through just like that. So that little point comes out this side. And now we'll open this up along the existing crease here. So it should look like this. Now we're going to pull down and swivel like that. Again, no new crease yet, just pulling this crease down, and then push the slack out this way and land this crease here on that edge behind it. Do the same thing over here, swiveling that down, opening that up and pushing that slack out toward the center, and land the crease on this edge behind it. And it should look like this. Now we have another swivel fold to do, and we're going to be pulling this edge here to this crease here. And this won't lie flat as you do it, so this is kind of tricky. Your crease should go right to that corner and all the way in to this pocket. And then you're going to flatten it, and you're flattening multiple layers here from this corner here right to the corner of the pocket. And once you've done that, then the remaining slack gets swept out in that direction. Let's go ahead and do that on the other side. So we got to fold this edge to this crease here. And our crease that we're making should go right to this corner of the plane. And then we fan this pocket open and make our crease to this corner here. And then all the remaining slack goes in that way. Okay, now we're going to kind of open this up like this, and we need to reverse several creases. The first one we're looking at is this crease here, but you're gonna kind of be poking this point to force it to the other side. Now I want this crease here to still pull down like this. And then when I look at it from this side, you can see that corner, which is this corner right, this corner right here. You can see that corner on this side. And basically, you need to make sure your crease is still running right from that corner to that corner right out there. And you're just pulling it flat like that. So from this side, that's what it looks like. From this side, this is what it looks like. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on this side over here. So I'm opening this up. I'm folding right along this line here. And I want to make sure this layer remains on this side, and my crease goes from this point here to this point right out here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move some weight forward on the plane. I'm just folding this kind of as far forward as it'll go from this point here to this point here. And then I'm going to end up reversing that and sending it behind the other layers. Just like that. Grab my bone folder. That would be neater than using this tweezer for everything. Okay, and I'll fold this as far forward as it'll go. Reverse that and tuck it in behind. you can make sure that these layers remain nicely tucked under there and don't escape. Okay, and now we're going to be working to create the tail section of the plane at this point. So let's see, the first thing we should do for that is we should go ahead and fold this edge right here to that existing edge there. And we'll do that same thing on this side. And we're going to end up reversing both of those creases and tucking these layers into this section of the plane here. So here's my crease. I'm just kind of folding this in the opposite direction and wrapping it into that pocket there. Do the same thing here. And that went into that pocket. And now we're again fanning open a pocket here, and I'm going to end up squash folding this pocket here, and it will ultimately become the thrusters at the back of the plane. But when you squash fold this, you can see I'm just pulling these layers. In fact, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to open that up completely so you can see. I wouldn't recommend doing that on your own plane. But I'm squash folding this to take this edge here and land it along this edge here. And just continuing a crease from that point back, determined by, you know, those references of landing that edge on the edge behind it. So here I will fan this open and land this edge on the edge down behind it, like that. Okay, and now we can flip this back over, and we're going to work on the actual tail fins. So I'm going to fold this right over this edge that exists, and kind of swing this forward. You can see there's a pocket there. We're maintaining that as the corner of the pocket, and we're swinging these layers forward. And the way you want to do this is you're swinging it so that this edge lands along this edge of the paper. Just like that. And what that's going to do, especially as you pull this up to just above this point here, as you do that, you want that to be the corner of the pocket, like we said. You want a crease to go right to this corner, or as close to that corner as you can, while landing this edge along that edge. And then this is going to kind of pull into a little pocket. That does not lie flat when you fold it exactly as I have here. And what you want to do is kind of open that pocket and flatten it so that you go right to this crease here on the wing. Just like that. Okay, so let's try that on the other side as well. We're folding this fin up along this edge. Here's the corner of our pocket. We kind of pull forward, and this edge, we want to land along that edge. And in order to do that, we kind of have to pull the paper farther than you think it wants to go because of that. And this corner will land just above this here. And we make a crease from this corner to this corner. Now this little section right here is not lying flat, so we just pull that and crease right to that point. And it looks just like this. Okay, so now let's see, what do we do now? Oh yes, Okay, so now we're folding this point here to this point down here, and again, we've got kind of a tricky section over here, because as we continue that crease, it opens up a pocket. It does not go straight to that corner, it hits below it. So we have to open this pocket, and we're going to make a crease from this corner here to that corner right there, and then just flatten it. We'll do the same thing on this side. Folding right like so. And to this point up here, and flatten that nicely. Okay, now I'm going to I've got a crease on this layer. I'm going to fold along that crease and unfold just to reinforce that on the layer behind it. And now I want to fold this short little edge to that crease, just like that. I'll do the same thing on this side. And then I'm going to fold this short edge here back to that edge, just like this. And now I'm even going to pull, I want the crease I just made to actually land on that edge. So the rest of this goes past it. I'm looking at a crease now that I want to land right on this edge. Okay, and we'll do the same 2 steps over here. So I'm folding this edge right to that edge behind it. And then I take that crease and I pull, and I want to land the crease on the edge behind it. Okay, so it'll look like this. And now we're going to unfold both of those sides. And what we want to do is kind of open this up, and we are going to inside reverse on the biggest of these creases, the one right here. So kind of push it like that so the rest of that goes through. And then we're going to fold, let me just do it and then I'll explain what I did. Okay, so I did another inside reverse fold, and you can see what it looks like here. So you're going to end up wanting to get your paper into this position using these creases. Now, what that will mean is you've got these little short tabs here. And if you do not have these short tabs, that means your inside reverse fold here is on different creases than mine is. So you want to make sure you've got little tabs just like this sticking out behind the back edge of what's going to be the fin here. And I've got 2 tabs and a section in between them. So now I'm actually going to just wrap this tab here into this pocket. So you can see I fold it forward, but I want that to go in behind this top layer. So folding it in like that, just using the existing crease. And then the same idea with this tab, I want that to fold into this pocket here at the back, like that. And now I can kind of open this up and swing this section there back out and flatten it like this, which now means I can fold this here from this little tiny corner there, that tiny corner, forward. And what I'm doing here is I want the crease I make to be parallel to this edge of the plane here. That long edge, I want this new crease I'm making to be parallel to that. And you can see that creates this whole structure just like this that will be the tail of the plane. Okay, so now we need to repeat those steps on this side here. We are inside reverse folding using these bigger creases out here, just like that. And then I'm going to end up with all that going through. And I want to perform another inside reverse fold that leaves me with little tabs. I'm not making any new creases here. I'm just making sure I'm folding on the right points. Okay, so that left me with these little tabs that go back behind the paper, or behind the fin. And I want to fold those tabs on existing creases into their respective pockets. Just like that. And then this tab needs to wrap around on the other side, sorry. So that's got to wrap around here. Again, I'm just using an existing crease to fold that in. Just like that. And now I can fold this down, open that towards the back, like that, and fold a crease that goes parallel to this edge. Just like that. Okay, so those are the fins of the plane, and we are really, really close at this point. Now we are ready to do our jet fold, which is going to involve folding right along this edge here. Towards the back, you can see this edge, and continuing that crease all the way to the center of the plane up here. Now let me go ahead and tuck these, which are going to be our air intakes, in behind this flap here for this step. And yes, I'm going to lay my paper down just like this and begin folding, and I'm looking for this layer right here as I make this fold. So there's that layer, and I want to just run this parallel, right, a continuation of that line forward. So it'll look something like this. And I find it a little bit easier, instead of just folding both sides separately, to kind of then just push in on the center of the plane. Swing this up, and then pull this down to match my first wing. Now, if that does not seem like something you want to do, you can just fold the line on the other side the same way I did, and then push it in and do like a big inside reverse fold of your whole plane to pull your two sides together just like this. This is commonly referred to as a jet fold. A lot of jets use this. And your plane should look like this. Okay, now we still have a little more work to do on the gun at the front of the plane. So we're going to actually open this up, and we're going to reach all the way behind this pocket here and just pull this all the way out, all the way into the nose. I'm opening that pocket, and you can see you've got this little layer. So I'm folding this completely in half right now. You've got this little edge here right there and a layer that goes past it. And you want to pinch this completely together and then fold this right along that edge. Like that. And then open this up and squash fold it. Like so. Except hopefully more accurately than I did. And now, just like we kind of did on the back side, we want to tuck these little tabs we've made into other layers. So you can see there's this layer right here which represents a pocket, and I want to tuck this tab I just made into that pocket. Like that. And I'll do the same thing on this side, moving these layers out of the way and tucking this little tab into the pocket behind it. And I know I'm not showing it to you very well, and I apologize for that. Okay, now we can kind of tuck these layers back in where they go. And we have our machine gun now such that when we kind of push these layers back into the plane, the machine gun won't go all the way in, and that's kind of exactly what you want. That's going to let the machine gun sit below the rest of the plane, kind of like this. I know things got a little messier before they're going to get prettier, but we are almost done at this point. So now you can kind of hold this together, and let's work a little bit on the air intakes. So we can open our air intakes up now. And I like to fold right along this edge, just kind of pulling like that. And do the same thing on this side. And then using the other existing creases as the points at which it kind of bends in its natural air intake shape. So it'll end up looking kind of like this, except we want this side open out like that. So that's kind of how I shape it, is kind of using these edges right here. Just requires a little work. And as you do that, a lot of times these layers will escape. Just tuck it in like this. Tuck it in like that. And now we want to fold our wings up right along this edge here. Same thing on this side. And we're going to, you can see we've got a pocket here and a pocket here. You can choose either side, but you want to tuck one of the tabs into the other side's pocket, just like that. And then you look under the plane and you grab this central section here and kind of fold it in on itself. And you want your fold to go right to this corner back here. Just wrap it around like that. And now all we have left to do, really, make sure that you wrap it enough that it gets nice and inside the plane. All we have left to do are shape our afterburners. So I'm going to kind of fold this up and tuck it behind the other layers. Just like that. And do the same thing on this other side. Sorry, let me go ahead and make a nice sharp crease. I'll do the same thing on this side. And you want to make sure you tuck those in behind the other layers here. I didn't fold quite far enough to do that, so I'm going to wrap just a little farther. Tuck that in behind that layer. Tuck this in behind this layer. And now I'm just going to kind of open those up with my tweezers at the back and roll it. Just like that. Takes just a little bit of work to get these nice. You can spend as much time on these as you want. I'm just giving you an idea of what you need to do. But that's the basic idea there. And with that, you have a finished Griffin. All we have to do now is kind of set our wing angles. You want it to be really nice and flat across the back with your fins vertical, and then these here being nice and flat as well. And with that, thank you so much for watching this video, and good luck flying your plane. Thank you so much to all of our patrons for supporting this channel and making videos like this one possible. If you join the Foldable Fleet, you'll get to watch each of our monthly live streams, and you can become the pilot of your favorite paper airplane. Your name will appear beside it when I thank each of our patrons like this at the end of each of our videos. So head over to patreon.com/foldableflight and join the Foldable Fleet today.